Okay, I think we're live. Hopefully that's the case. If anybody who seems to be in the audience wants to confirm that we're live by giving me a little wave or a comment or something, that would be great. But I'm just going to carry on as if we're live anyway. So, okay, great. Looks like you can hear us. Fabulous. My name is Mike, and I am your compare. I'm introducing our three experts for this panel. We should have been joined by a fourth. Yanni de Kock, unfortunately, gave me a bell this morning. She has contracted COVID, so she's unable to join us. So she would have been talking about some of the qualitative research, some of the new ways that she's been doing online digital research, particularly through the, through the last 12 months especially. But unfortunately, she's now been struck down. So we send her all our best wishes to get healthy soon. We're joined by three experts in African insights and online digital research. So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves to the group before we get stuck into some of the meat of this topic, which is really this intersection between Africa and digital insight innovation. So I'm going to start with Carleen. Would you like to just say a couple of words to introduce who you are and where you work?
Perfect. Thank you, Mike. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yep. Can I hear you well?
Yep.
Oh, good. Cool. I was just checking because earlier I was a bit soft. I'm Carleen Krichler. I'm based in Cape Town in South Africa. I've been in the market research industry for good on 18 years. And last year I co-founded a company called Hello Ara, and we focus on using chatbots to do market research. And I'll tell you a little bit later about how we do that. So thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Thanks, Colin. Tshepo. Hi.
Thanks, Mike. Good. I see we're in 3 time zones. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. As Mike said, my name is Tshepo Mila, and I've been in the market research industry for the past, 14 years now. I think I've been very fortunate to work for companies that have a presence in Africa, starting with Sinovet, then it got acquired by Ipsos, and now at Nudge. And at Nudge, I serve as the client service director. And at Nudge, we use emerging technologies to help our client navigate this very dynamic Africa world of ours. And Nudge has been operating for the past 9 years now, exclusively online. So, looking forward to this conversation.
Great. Thanks. And Sumya. Hi.
Thanks a lot, Mike. And good morning, good evening, good afternoon to you, wherever you are. I'm actually based in Dubai. It's 8:30 in the evening, and it's a warm 40 degrees here. So a warm hello to you from Dubai. So I've been in the industry for about 3 decades now. I've worked and lived across 7 different countries. Dubai being the 7th one. I worked in Asia and Africa. I'm presently the head of Kantar for West, East, and Central Africa, so the middle part of Africa. So as you may imagine, I have been in Africa for 10 years. I set up the Kantar Millward Brown businesses in Ghana in 2010. I lived in Kenya from 2016 to 2020, head of the business there, and the chief commercial officer for the region. And I'm passionate about driving online research here in Africa. I'm delighted to be part of the panel. Thank you, Mike.
Great. Thanks, Samir. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And just by way of background, I guess what we wanted to do by running a session like this is to explore some of the really creative, innovative work that is both being adapted to Africa's unique requirements, but also actually originating in Africa. So, how are companies evolving what's been developed elsewhere in the world, but also, originating brand new ways of reaching people using digital methods. I've seen some really creative approaches to this, some great ways to engage people. I worked with Tshepo's company a little bit. Well, actually, I used to be part of Kantar years back, but more recently, was quite inspired by working with Nudge, which is Tshepo's company, with the way in which they use mobile approaches, communities to engage and explore different communities across Africa. So I'm going to start with Tshepo, your slides, just to kind of share and give a bit of a case study so people can see some of the work that is being done around Africa, and hopefully you'll see this one slide now. So I'm going to hand over to you so you can talk through this case study, and then we can have a chat about what it implies.
Thanks, Mike. Putting me first.
Surprise.
Okay, so I think maybe let's start with the first thing. So the client need, what the client need as a case study. So customer came to us and saying, look, I have a bit of an issue. There's a social media storm happening. Our people, our customers are complaining about burning their hairs, burning their beds, burning their skins, etc. And we have people returning their straighteners, hair straighteners to the shops, etc. And our client was very worried about obviously the brand image impact that could have. Us being online, she knew that we could do something for her quite quickly. The challenge was, so the traditional way of doing things, so online surveys, online discussions, wasn't really the solution. So we couldn't ask people, why are you burning yourself? Why, so we really needed a solution to be there when they burn themselves and come up with an answer for our clients. And first stop was to you, Mike, actually, inside platforms. And we wanted a mobile ethnographic solution that would help us get insights quickly. And yeah, I think our operations director had a look at, I'm sure, over 30 of the suppliers. But we know our market. Our market is very dynamic. It requires specific nuances. And we ended up choosing a supplier that worked well for us. And obviously we had different criteria in terms of how we wanted it. The first one was it had to be online because we're an exclusively online market research company. Second one, obviously being online, we've seen, 90% of the completes that we do in Africa are via mobile, but also it allows for us to move around with them. We hear that phones are an extension of ourselves. So the first thing was obviously to say, okay, let's do this mobile ethnography route and look at a few things. When there are really cool tech providers out there, and the choice was really hard going into it. But yeah, our market is very sensitive, right? First to price, so we had to then zoom into very few people that we could sort of partner with. But also because we've been around for a while, a lot of the people that we reach out to know our platform. We have an insights community across Africa called African Pulse. So we needed a solution that could sort of mirror that platform, so that people can trust the platform and are able to engage with us via the platform. And also, you want a solution that's able to different time zones. You can't have the same activities at the same time. You want to be able to deploy at the convenience of people participating. So mobile first, SMS, email, employment, etc. So ultimately, yes, we went live, and it was fascinating what the insights we could get. The people were getting the desired results, definitely. So they were straightening their hairs, but were completely ignoring that small booklet with instructions in there in terms of the products you need to use, where you need to put it. There were people who were literally putting it next to the basin with water in there. That's a hazardous in itself, and the labeling definitely wasn't right, and yeah, we got some great insights, and told our client what to do. That's us in short.
Yeah, that's great. Obviously the kind of mobile only access to to internet is quite an important thing for people to understand, isn't it? Particularly if they're not based in Africa, that really the the device, the handheld, is the only connection to the internet, isn't it?
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
that's an Africa thing.
Yeah. And you got some pretty rich content out of this project, didn't you? You had some great videos and people showing you, and pictures and images of where they were living and everything. How much can you weave this sort of approach into lots of projects, or was this a bit of a special one-off? How do you find that, the mobile ethnography approach?
I think it is. I mean, there's been other cases where we've serviced a lot of our other clients. So it's something that we can definitely offer for any clients. I mean, the ethnography route is really for that specific program that you can't really answer with normal sort of traditional research.
Mm-hmm.
You really need to. I mean, one of our clients reached out to us and the whole debate about how you do your tea. Do you first pour your tea bag and then your water and then your and a lot of people think they know the system in their heads, but having observe, like stay there and observe and see what they actually do, you'd be fascinated. I mean, how much people like the color, etc. So it's something that you can scale out and roll across and do business with.
So people who put the milk in before they've taken the tea bag out have got no business in my household, I'll tell you that. They're not welcome. I don't believe in it. I think it's appalling. Anyway, thank you, Teppo. That was great. And on the slide roulette, we'll see who's coming up next. And it looks like you, Colin. So over to you to talk a little bit about how you've built this conversational AI capability and some of the applications for it. I think this is fascinating. Oh, we've lost Colin. I must say, this is like a genuine insight into some of the challenges of working in Africa, because in South Africa right now, the power situation is so terrible. Load shedding means that connections are a little bit inconsistent. So, Colin, you're back, it looks like. Hopefully you'll stay with us while you can talk to us about Hello Ara and conversational AI. Or not. Colin? No? You are there. Great. Okay.
Strong enough. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah, we can hear you. Let's go for it while we've got you. Tell me if you want me to move a slide forward.
Okay, great. I think you can move on. Okay, that broke up a little bit, but maybe you can move over to the next slide.
Yep, how's that?
Cool. So our name is Hello. Yes. All good. Can I talk? Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Please do.
So our name is Hello Ara. Cool. I'll just carry on and you stop me if you can't hear me. So we use chatbots for all the research that we do. I can talk for long about exactly what we do and how passionate we are about it. So I'm just going to touch briefly today on why we do research in this way and how it works. So basically we use a chatbot that we can customize. So different chatbots with different personalities, and we can use different visuals in,
So here you go. This is the reality, right? Colin, you keep dropping, but it's fine. We'll keep going with it. You just carry on.
All right. Okay. So I was saying that we use chatbots, which we customize depending on who we are speaking to. So, for example, in an African country, of course, we need to make sure that the look and feel of the chatbot ties in with the people we are speaking to. So, don't you feel more comfortable if you're speaking to someone who looks like you, who uses the sort of language that you do? So we are able to customize the personality and the look and feel and the language that the bot uses. And in that way, having a conversation like that, we find that people open up. They share a lot with us. We get a lot of honesty and a lot of detail from them. The other thing that we do is typically we ask a lot of open questions. So what we provide our clients with then is call at scale. And we use AI, but also traditional analysis, a combination of that to do our analysis to help us with that open data at scale. But I think the thing that I wanted to talk about today is that we really are flexible in terms of how we find people. So the chatbots that we build can basically plug into a variety of different sample sources. So we do use research panels where it makes sense, in the markets where it makes sense. But we also use social media for recruitment. So typically we mostly use Facebook and also Instagram. But we can also do things like have a chatbot with a web link. So if we have email addresses, for example, we can use an email chatbot. Or if it's a QR code that people can scan, or even a short code that you can type in that takes you to a web link to the chatbot. And even things like text or SMS links. So this is a great way to get to a variety of people. Because in Africa, I think some of the other speakers are going to touch on that. You know, sometimes some of the countries you're working in are restricted in terms of who you can find on panels, for example. There are some wonderful panels all throughout Africa, a variety of different providers that are really great that we all work with. But sometimes you need maybe higher end brands, or you need higher income consumers who you might not find on such a panel. And in that way, it's really great if you can flex by using different recruitment methods. So I thought I'd mention the study that we're currently busy with, where we're doing is really... Sorry? You're saying something, Mike?
Oh, I just didn't know if you wanted this slide. Was this...
Oh, that's all right. I'm still talking about recruitment, but that's fine. It's not a problem. So at the moment, we're doing a study for a client where they were looking for a number of very high alcohol brands. And we actually used a combination of panel recruitment with very highly targeted Facebook recruitment. And then there were also some mail-out lists that the client had of different societies that were into like connoisseur societies. So we were actually able to have the same chatbot on multiple different platforms in order to help the client get to a spectrum of people that use a variety of the brands that they were interested in, up to some very niche small brands. So that just shows the flexibility that we can have without even downloading something like an app. So we can find people with whatever they have. So if they're on Facebook, we can find them there. You know, if they're on a panel, they'll probably have a panel app. Or even if it's through email, then they just need internet access. I think you can move to the next slide. I just wanted to show typically how we would have a conversation with people. So our aim is always to get to depth and detail. So we like to solve problems for our clients based off a lot of detail and depth. And very often the kind of problems we solve are very exploratory. And that's just an example. For example, in a traditional survey, you know, in quant survey, you need those predetermined answer options. But in the way that we do research, we ask those open questions and then respond based on what people said. We can program our AI to do that, or even to just ask probing questions, and then that open data we quantify. So in this example, for example, if you would get feedback from an ad, you'd need to be quite prescriptive in your answer options for quant, but we can ask it in an open way and actually capture that, what people are saying. So in this case, the participant was saying, this ad was fine, nothing not to like, but sometimes a little work, just tell me about the product. So capturing that essence of the real words of people is really exciting for us. Thanks, Mike.
Great. Thanks, Carly. I mean, I love some of the stuff that you've been doing. I saw you posted the other day about people's responses to the bot, you know, saying thank you in a survey, and them just, you know, talking back to them as if it was a friend, or, you know, and I guess, you know, pulling out some of those real human insights with this. You know, I mean, it's very advanced stuff, isn't it? I know your business partner David's been talking about, you know, animated human, you know, the kind of virtual humans as avatars instead of the kind of cartoon characters. It's incredibly, you know, innovative stuff. So hats off and well done for this. We'll come back. We've got some great questions from the audience, some of which are partly being addressed, actually, by what you just presented. But let's move on to Sumi now. Let's talk about some of the work that Kantar's doing across Africa, and then we'll come back and we'll take more questions from the audience, and we'll dig into some of the details. If you have other questions, please put them in now, and then we'll get to them after Sumi's had a chance to talk about his take on insight innovation in Africa.
Yeah. So thanks, Mike. And I see you put me last, which might be a signal that I should not talk too much and rather keep it moving along in the interest of having more questions. Yeah. So yeah, I think this slide states the obvious. I think over the last year in particular, the way things have accelerated with respect to how consumers are making decisions, the choices they are making, the factors they are considering, and the increased kind of pressure on brands. I think anywhere in the world you are, whether that's Africa, whether that's Far East or the West, the time is right for having fast, reliable insights delivered to you in real time. Next slide, please. So, as Kantar, our mission in Africa is actually to empower our clients. And that means clients in Africa, that means multinational clients, that means African homegrown clients, as well as clients who are overseas and looking to understand African consumers. And we want to empower them by deploying our latest global cutting-edge tools and solutions real-time in Africa. So our mission and our ambition is that there should not be any lag between launching one of our solutions, let's say in the US or Asia compared to Africa. So in the space of the last few months, accelerated no doubt by COVID, we've brought into Africa a number of our cutting edge solutions. If we go and look at the one on the left, Kantar Marketplace, this is essentially a DIY self-serve platform designed for anyone actually with a laptop and a desire to test anything. It could be a creative, it could be a concept, it could be a pack. To actually, go on to Kantar Marketplace and commission a survey in Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, and to get feedback very quickly, on the concept of the ad tested, right? The next two, Link AI and Conversational AI, essentially around harnessing the power of AI into, giving insights on, let's say if it's Link AI, giving insights on a creative that you want to test, but you don't actually have to go and test it. You don't need to feel it. Based on our database of thousands of creators that we've tested in the African continent, we can look at the metrics, we can look at the characteristics of the creative that you want to test, and feedback how that would have likely done in the market if you had launched it without actually going to market. Of course, Carleen has talked so much in depth on conversational AI, but obviously that's something that's gaining fast traction across the continent, including us as well. And the last bit, which is essentially the future of tracking or next generation tracking, moving away. And, as some of you might be aware, Kantar is, we do a lot of brand tracking, and a lot of the brand tracking that has been happening in the past is the conventional, let's say, long questionnaires, face-to-face, lots of questions asked, lots of information. And what we want to do is move that to the future, which is agile systems, end-to-end automation, better quality of data, better quality of insights, modular, and so forth. So, we've been working hard to bring these innovative solutions into Africa. And as my panelists, Shepo and Carleen have talked about, there are some challenges that we see on the continent, which actually are opportunities as well. Mike, if you don't mind the next slide.
Sure. Okay.
So I think there are just some two broad points that I think are important for, as Kantar, this is what we've seen, and Shepo talked about the first point, which is really, if you want to connect with people on the continent via the internet, it is mobile. I mean, Africa is a mobile first population, right? So that means that when we look at some of the solutions that have been, let's say, developed in some of the Western markets, and we bring them into Africa, we want to execute them online for all the right reasons. But online in Africa means not a desktop or a laptop, but it means mobile. Especially so for the lower SEC who don't have a desktop, and the only way they can access the internet is through mobile. That means that we have to evolve or adapt our scripts, screen formats, make sure that the questionnaires are engaging and can be answered by consumers on mobile. So there's a lot of that technical processing that needs to happen to ensure that it is ready for the African continent. With respect to testing creators, for example, in our link suite with Kanta Marketplace, so we run facial coding. So imagine that you are seeing an ad, sitting in front of your camera on your desktop or your laptop, and the camera is recording your facial expressions. And as you're seeing the ad, we are able to give this output and analysis on, are people liking the ad at a particular scene or not? So to move that from a laptop or desktop configuration to a mobile, those are some of the adaptations that we need to do to ensure that our solutions are ready for the African market. And interestingly, the last point is actually talking about the fact that because the African continent and research on the African continent is mobile-led, we are actually finding in certain instances that the time it takes to turn around a project in Africa is actually lesser than it might take place in the West, because people are always carrying their phones in their hands and they can answer the survey 24/7. So that's interesting because it's in Africa, I would say, opportunity, which results in a faster turnaround time on something that is already an agile solution. The second one, Carleen talked about this. So the key point here is that because we don't necessarily have equal representation of, let's say, lower SECs and females in our online panels, they are very good, they're developing, but currently we find across most parts of Africa that they're underrepresented with lower SECs and females. So the best of both worlds is actually to have an approach that looks at doing what we call CAVI through mobile, computer web interviewing through mobile, for the upper SEC segments, for the more educated, for the tier 1 cities, and supplement that with another component that is called CASI, this is computer-aided self-interviewing, where we go with the segment of where we interview the segment of the population that's not really connected to mobile as much. And in this way, we are able to get the best of both worlds, because we know going mobile gives you accuracy, but we are not able to capture the lower SEC segment, and hence to make the trackers representative. The hybrid method works well from a sampling point of view. And what it also does is it ensures that as the adoption of mobile goes up over time, we already have our foot in place, so to speak. And over a period of time, you can reduce the component that is CASI and make it more and more mobile. So you are already future-proofing some of your biggest brand trackers. Yeah.
Simi, that was great. Thank you. And I love your story there, because it kind of encapsulates the fact that your challenges are kind of at the extremes of the spectrum, aren't they? With, you've got very advanced mobile adoption, you've got high penetration, you've got very fast response rates in some ways, but you also need to be mindful of representation, of reaching people in, not on mobile, mixing it up with the methods. And, you probably have, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I imagine you have a bigger spectrum of, data collection challenges or situations to kind of bring into one big project potentially. Is that the case?
Yep, absolutely. And some of these trackers are existing trackers that we are looking to migrate. So the clients are always concerned about, I shouldn't have a trend break, for example. So that's where this methodology also works pretty well.
Yeah. So you're part of a bigger organization than either Carleen, especially, or Tsepo. And I imagine you have repeated conversations that may be quite similar with colleagues, who, let's say, wanting to adapt a global tracker or wanting to roll out a new methodology to Africa. You talked about mobile, you talked about the mixed methodologies. What are some of the, without being asking you to divulge anything inappropriate, but what are some of those lessons that you kind of need to take a deep breath and remind people of, or if they're hearing it for the first time, what are some of the things that people misunderstand, I guess, about running projects in Africa?
So I think I think people assume that when you execute a large scale let's say a tracking project, people assume that traditional methodologies work well, and the long questionnaires and the rigors of the sampling work well, and they look at that as the benchmark for transitioning projects off mobile. And we see a lot of clients say that, hey, let's not change it because, I don't want my trend breaks to happen. And the convincing that we sometimes need to do is to show them that actually going mobile with data collection gives you more accurate responses, because the consumers are not being nice, as we know that a lot of this is a continent of nice people. Everyone wants to say nice things if they have to answer questions to an interviewer, or indeed being able to connect with and interview the upper SEC or the mobile or the youth. I mean, a lot of our conventional trackers don't even talk to that segment, and that segment contributes a lot to a lot of categories in terms of spend, and traditional research or traditional door-to-door methods don't really get to those people. So in reality, the question is not, is mobile ready? The question is that actually mobile is more than ready, it's more accurate. And we've done a lot of these parallel run studies where we run the study on conventional face-to-face door-to-door, and we run it on mobile. And the mobile data that we get is far more accurate, far more real, and far more insightful than mobile. So that's the kind of misunderstanding that I think we are trying to evolve, with some of our clients.
Interesting. I guess the pace of mobile adoption may be something that they don't quite appreciate. Just how far and how fast the use of smartphones has become over the last few years.
Yeah.
Tsepa, there was a question here from Noel in Algeria about data collection in Africa. I thought, Carleen mentioned a few different sources needing to mix it up. Do you want to talk a little bit about, I guess, you build a lot of communities, don't you? So specialist, kind of brand specific. How do you work with them?
Yeah. So we like you say, I think we probably one of the leading pioneers within our region for accessing building insights communities or panels. So there are various ways of building them. So either through client lists or through opted in, sort of if a customer is going into your store and you sort of call to action to join a community or a panel. But as Caroline said, I mean, the online space through online, I mean, Facebook, Instagram, social media, etc., is very engaged, and these are people that are willing to participate in studies. So we've found that. That social media sort of universe is the go-to place for recruiting for sort of general market, and as we know, I mean, Facebook is quite huge. I mean, it's in across Africa, it's quite used, and people access it via their phones. If people are sitting in their taxis on their way home, that the first thing they do is take out their phone and look up on Facebook, and we access people really there as an alternative recruitment source.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The Facebook recruitment, I think, seems to be adopted more widely these days. Carleen mentioned, that there are some great panels across Africa, of which, I know there are. I think she was being polite in neglecting, the flip side of that, in that there are some less good data sources, and often I think recruiting from social media can be a little bit more accurate, even if it it needs a little difference of skill set, doesn't it, to run those campaigns and attract people. Colin, we've got a question directed to you from Prono, which is all about the kind of probing. If probing is such a key part of qualitative research, how do you do that in a AI-driven, bot tool? How does that work?
Okay, sure. So I think what we have learned is we actually do quantitative research, but we ask those open questions so we get the qualitative detail. So when we want to probe on the topics that people are mentioning, we build classifiers, for example. So we would upfront need to, just like you would think through, have hypotheses, plan out what are the things that are important to you to understand at a deeper level. And we would then build classifiers, which we would build into the bot. And then that would help us with the intuitive probing. But we don't only use AI probing. We actually design the conversation to use a mix of closed and open questions, and sometimes just a thoughtful, do you have anything more you wanted to add to that? Because if you're going to speak to people with a bot and you probe too many things, I think it gets to a point where it becomes to feel a little bit intrusive. So yeah, I'm maybe saying more than answering your question.
No, I think that's great.
But I think, you have to think carefully about how you design this probing, because you don't want people to feel like it's too intrusive. But you also don't want to just ask, why do you say that, millions of times. So I guess it's about designing the whole conversation in a thoughtful way, and then using classifiers to probe.
Yeah, and it seems like you get quite a lot of spontaneous, unsolicited input on the open-ended questions and things as well. I think maybe the interface kind of encourages that a little bit, where people are naturally chatty, through WhatsApp or Messenger anyway.
Definitely. It's interesting. We've also recently looked at, in the same study, we looked at the panel data, and then we looked at the Facebook Messenger data. And on the panel with the open questions, we got a lot of rich response, but on Facebook, we got even more. I think it was between 20 and 30% more words that people were using on Facebook Messenger, because they're used to chatting in that sort of platform. Yep. And they know they're chatting to a bot, but somehow they're revealing a lot of personal details. And like you mentioned, we find that people, even when the conversation is over, a lot of people will come back and say, hey, are you still there? Or, yep. I so enjoyed chatting to you, whatever the bot's name is, or asking questions. So it's really interesting that people enjoy that engagement on a personal level, but it's almost sort of, you're a little bit anonymous, so people are less careful with what they're saying. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so you're kind of building the prototypes of what will end up being that. What's that film? Her. Have you seen the film with where he falls in love with his mobile operating system? It's a fantastic one. It's anyway. I digress, but it's a really great film. It's very sensitively done. With the guy who played Joker. I can't remember his name. Somebody in the audience will let me know. I'm terrible with names. Teppo, we actually had a question about your mobile ethnography hair straightener project, and I think maybe this comes back to the communities thing. How did you get people to participate? How did you engage them? Did you nudge them, or were they just kind of happy to do it spontaneously? You talk a little bit about how that worked.
Yeah, so specifically maybe to the hair straightener one, it was one in South Africa, one in Nigeria. So already, because we build insights communities, or what we call panels, we already have participants who are already engaged through our various ways of engaging them. We don't necessarily believe, so we don't nudge them with complete this and you will get, etc. So they're already part of a community that already does ongoing research, etc. So they sometimes they like to give their feedback. So depending on obviously the type of study, sometimes they just want to give their feedback, then they're energized. But obviously, in the hair straightener way, what we did is give them data and sort of nudge them for incentivizing them through vouchers or some sort of tech, etc. So yeah, we do that. For that sort of ethnography study, Sumia mentioned that the online portion of what they do for brain health tracking is quite efficient in terms of the quality. Sometimes you don't even have to incentivize. We've seen that actually not incentivizing, you get much richer data than you do if you're sort of incentivizing per complete. There's millions and millions of people online, and it's, we're researchers, so it's all about the numbers. There'll be a Mike who wants to be incentivized, and then there'll be a Teppo who just wants to give the opinion because the survey itself looks good. The topic itself is something that I want to give input in. We with the mobile ethnography, we had people sending multiple videos. It ran over 2 to 3 days, and each day the respondents would shoot a video of themselves, and they'll sort of send voice recordings of this is the product I use, or I'm thinking of that, and here you go. So it's, I mean, sometimes you find people that really want to be heard, and those are the people that we attract to complete our activities or surveys.
Yeah. That's great. You, in a throwaway comment there, you mentioned about giving them data. Just for those people in the audience, the incentive is airtime vouchers for mobile data connectivity, isn't it? Which is I think is a great. It's mobile centric for the data response. It's it's a kind of mobile mechanic for incentivizing them where they're not going to do it spontaneously. So yeah, kind of slightly probably a distinctly African approach to incentivizing as well. Sumia, I just wanted to, before we wrap up, just to come back to you, because I'm fascinated by the Kantar marketplace story, which is obviously automating a lot of the methodologies that you have in the group, the link testing, and and streamlining that. So, is that, you said it's launched in Africa now? Is that something that is? Are you rolling it out quite extensively across Africa?
So we've rolled it out in South Africa and most recently in Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, also Egypt, which is part of the continent. That's the first phase. So eventually the ambition is to, once we scale it here, then the ambition is to scale it to other markets as well. But we've kind of covered the three hubs of Africa where most of the research currently happens. But yes, eventually we will get into the other markets.
Okay, great. And presumably, are all of those approaches fully adapted to mobile then? The ones that are launched on Marketplace?
Yes, they are. And as we discussed earlier, I mean, they need to be 100% mobile.
Yeah. Good. Any other questions from the audience? I'm conscious that we're heading towards the wrap up. There we go. Norbert's come in and told me basically that we all need to wrap it up now. So, thank you guys. Thank you very much for joining. So, Carleen, Sapo, Sumia, great insights.
Thank you.
I love hearing about this stuff.
Thank you, Mike, for inviting us.
That's great. Thanks to Norbert and to Nikki for having us in the SparkSummit. I hope that was insightful for those of you who joined. Lots of little thumbs up coming up, so that's wonderful. And hopefully we'll see you all again at another event. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a pleasant evening. Day.
Thank you.